What if the world you call reality is only a fraction of what truly exists? Imagine living inside a glass bubble, where rain controls what you can see and believe. For most of us, this rainstorm, our beta brainwave state, defines everything: society, rules, even the very idea of truth. But what happens when the rain slows down, when our minds shift into harmony with the earth itself? Suddenly, the bubble begins to crack, and an expanded reality emerges.
In today's episode, we explore Old Billy's striking vision of the beta world, a dense, artificial reality built on limited perception, and the possibility of stepping beyond it into a freer, more subtle dimension of consciousness. Welcome to a journey where science, philosophy, and spirit meet. Let's begin.
When the fog descended, silence settled over the village after the discovery of Old Billy's departure. His notes were left stacked, serving as entertainment for the locals who chose to share them with others.
Number 047. Beta world or dense world. Everything we know as the reality of human society results from the principles and concepts perceived when our minds operate at the electromagnetic frequency called beta, which oscillates between 13 to 30 Hz per second. Imagine yourself inside a glass bubble under constant rain, with an intensity varying from 13 to 30 drops per square centimeter. Naturally, this water colliding with the glass will affect our ability to decode external events, and our perceptions will be the only available measure to evaluate the reality around us. Since no one else is experiencing a different climatic condition, we all agree that the prevailing conclusions should determine the common sense from which the foundations for the rules and laws governing everyone's existence within the bubble will be extracted. Up to this point, we are all acting in good faith and committed to collective well-being. The problem arises when the intensity of the rainfall over the bubble decreases, or if you prefer, when the electromagnetic frequency drops to 7.83 Hz per second. This is the predominant frequency in the Earth's body. Consequently, we discover a discrepancy in frequencies, a disharmony that, in our rain analogy, means a significant reduction in the amount of water hitting the glass, leading to a corresponding shift in our perception of everything around us. This results in a vast expansion of our perspective, directly affecting our level of consciousness. So why has this become a problem? The unfortunate answer is not a conspiracy theory, though it would be better if it were. To avoid controversy, I prefer not to list the reasons, at least not at this moment. The fact is that we convinced ourselves that reasoning, thinking, reflecting, and making decisions during accelerated brain activity would make us smarter than the rest of nature, enabling us to dominate it. Because of this, we created the beta society, artificial, disconnected from the natural flow, and distant from the original essence within its components. The initial concepts, meant to serve us better, eventually became restrictive factors for the development of our consciousness and obstacles to our integration with the subtle aspects of the universe around us. The good news is that each and every one of us has the right and the ability to adjust the lenses through which we see life, allowing us to perceive with our own eyes a broader and more inclusive reality occurring simultaneously beyond the limitations crystallized by beta ignorance. Some draw a parallel to Plato's famous allegory of the cave, where primitive people limited their potential due to fear caused by their distorted perception of shadows on the walls. A mere cat's projection made them believe there was a tiger on the other side, until someone broke the bubble, freeing humanity from the limits of their caves.
This is the first note left by Old Billy, referring to what we know as reality by the nickname Beta World, or also Dense World. From now on, we must be careful not to mix up the information. Notice that the concept of Beta World is directly related to what the human intellect has created based on a limited perception of the universe around it. In other words, Humans perceived life with restrictions, and based on this limited understanding, they developed the beta system, which dominates and determines the way of existence on this planet. Now pay attention, because you will hear the word density many times in the future, and it is essential to distinguish when old Billy is using it to refer to natural density and when it is being applied to indicate the density created by the beta system. These are two distinct types of density, the natural and the artificial. The first dissolves in the embrace of subtlety, while the second was designed to repel this embrace of living life, love. With that said, let's hear what Dr. Ada Champ has to say. Please, Doctor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, John. You have found a great way to clarify the main reason why Mr. Billy was labeled a madman. I'm glad you did it at this moment, before we begin to objectively explore what he was able to perceive beyond the intellectual limitations of our time. Your words are part of life that goes on. Congratulations, John. Here is the analysis of beta world or dense world. Old Billy's text presents a philosophical and metaphysical critique of human perception and its limitations, using a scientific and allegorical approach. It explores the relationship between brainwave frequencies, consciousness, and the nature of reality, making a strong case against the rigid, artificial structures of modern society. 1. The concept of beta consciousness and its implications. The text argues that what we perceive as reality is heavily influenced by the beta brainwave state, 13 to 30 Hz, which is associated with alertness, logic, and problem-solving. While beta consciousness is essential for everyday functioning, the text suggests that it confines human perception, creating an artificial world, beta society, that distances itself from nature and the essence of life. This argument aligns with critiques of hyper-rationalism and materialism, which claim that over-reliance on logic and structured thinking suppresses intuition, creativity, and deeper awareness. The idea that society has become trapped in an artificial mode of perception echoes themes from existential philosophy, where humans are estranged from authentic experience due to rigid social constructs. 2. The metaphor of the glass bubble and the rain. A powerful analogy is introduced. Being inside a glass bubble under constant rain, where the number of raindrops represents the intensity of beta wave activity. This imagery highlights the limiting nature of perception, as individuals can only interpret reality through the constraints of their immediate experience. When the rain intensity or brain frequency decreases to 7.83 Hz, the Schumann resonance, Earth's natural electromagnetic frequency, a new, expanded perception becomes possible. This shift suggests that harmonizing with nature's frequency leads to higher awareness and a deeper connection with existence. The implication is that human consciousness is being conditioned to stay within a high alert state, preventing individuals from experiencing the natural rhythm of life. This argument resonates with modern concerns about stress, overthinking, and disconnection from intuition and well-being. 3. The trap of the beta society. The text suggests that modern society has been structured around the limitations of beta consciousness, leading to an artificial, restrictive world. This mirrors themes found in Eastern philosophies, quantum physics, and esoteric traditions, which propose that true reality is much broader than the logical, sensory-based perception humans typically rely on. The critique of beta society aligns with Plato's allegory of the cave, where people mistake shadows for reality, unaware of a greater truth. Buddhist philosophy, which sees the ego-driven mind as an illusion that keeps humans trapped in suffering. Quantum physics, where reality is understood as dynamic and observer-dependent rather than fixed and objective. By suggesting that humanity has been deceived into accepting a narrow reality, The text encourages readers to question the nature of their perceptions, their thought patterns, and the systems they live within. 4. The call for expanding perception. The closing idea is one of hope and empowerment. Every individual has the ability to adjust their lenses and perceive beyond the beta-dominated world. This aligns with spiritual and philosophical traditions that advocate for higher consciousness, mindfulness, and a return to a more intuitive, interconnected existence. It also suggests a critique of fear-based conditioning, the idea that people are kept in a state of mental limitation due to societal structures, media, and education systems that reinforce beta consciousness. The encouragement to break the bubble mirrors calls for awakening, enlightenment, or transcending societal conditioning in various intellectual and spiritual traditions. Final thoughts. Beta world or dense world is a compelling mix of neuroscience, metaphysics, and philosophical critique, using scientific metaphors to challenge common perceptions of reality. It aligns with existentialist, spiritual, and quantum perspectives, urging readers to move beyond rigid thought structures and explore deeper levels of awareness. The text ultimately serves as an invitation to question reality, encouraging personal expansion, inner freedom, and alignment with a more holistic and interconnected view of existence.
Thank you, Dr. Champ. I've learned so much from you and all our colleagues here. It has been a privilege to be part of this meeting, and if I contributed anything worthwhile today, it's because of everything I've gained from this experience. Thank you, my dear friends. I love you all.